Om Namah Shivaya, Shrimanji.
Om Namah Shivaya.
I have some questions for you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Does spiritual sadhana bring worldly prosperity?
When we undertake sadhana, sadhana is the means to the sadhya. Sadhya means the goal. Now, the sadhya or the goal, when we say spiritual sadhana, the goal itself is paramartha. Paramartha means, gaining that divine fulfillment, that self-realization, that God realization, or what is called moksha. Now, that is the goal for which we are undertaking means. If we are undertaking means for dharma, artha, kama, then that is not considered spiritual sadhana. Okay. These are called means for dharma, artha, kama. Okay. So the nature itself is different. So the spiritual means, will they benefit us with respect to dharma, artha, kama? It might. But that is not what you are seeking. Okay. So if it happens, well and good. But that's not what your intentions are. If that is the intention, then appropriately one should use means. The means which will benefit us along those lines as well.
How does one handle the conflicts between parents, guru, or the spiritual path? Or how can they manage all these with respect to their spiritual path?
When we say the spiritual path, when we say conflict, the idea of the spiritual path itself is to go beyond conflict. Okay. That has to be understood. For example, why is conflict created? If one has picked up some, say, half an hour of some practice, some kriya, or some, sadhana, and one thinks that for that half an hour, everyone is an enemy trying to oppose that half an hour of practice. That's not a great idea because nobody is going to bother you with half an hour of practice. If one thinks too much about such a preliminary sadhana, then one is far away.
Yeah.
Because there is not conflicting.
Yeah.
So one cannot imagine conflict where it does not exist. One is free to pursue one's sadhana. When we pursue our sadhana, it is like driving. In driving, nobody is trying to kill you or hit you. They are doing their own things.
Yeah.
That itself means they might come onto your path. That means you will need to avoid hitting them. You will need to wait, sometimes slow down, sometimes stop, or sometimes take a turn, sometimes accelerate. All of this is part of driving, where we are not always concerned about what others are doing to us. They are doing their own thing. We are doing our own thing. And in those circumstances, how to harmoniously coexist. And for that, some acceleration when required will have to be done. Some deceleration when required will have to be done. Some changing course will have to be done. All of these are part of how we approach it.
Okay. So a person coming from a middle class family with a deep spiritual interest, is it required to just focus on the spiritual growth, or can it be like, okay, I'll leave my job and I'll just get into just the spiritual path?
So again, for this we need to understand that deep interest. How do you qualify it and quantify it? Okay. If we are into morning and evening, some half an hour or 1 hour of pranayama or meditation, can it be called a deep interest? No, it is a preliminary interest. No. One is gradually trying to set up a routine where some things, for example, in traditional Hindu practices, there is the idea of Sandhya Vandana. So Sandhya Vandana is done at specific times of the day. Can it be called spiritual? Yes. It gradually refines the chitta. Like that, if one is trying to develop some practice, it reveals a preliminary interest. There is a gradual deepening of the interest, not a direct jump. But in one's own imagination, if one is seeing that that is deep interest, then it's one's imagination. Yeah. One will have to gradually educate one's imagination. Okay. So that being said, with such gradually cultivating, this does not conflict with one's current role, whether one is in a job or one is doing something else. As one gradually invests in it, there is a deepening of that interest. As the deepening of interest happens, then life circumstances also give way to such pursuits. Before that, if one imagines conflict, then that is one's imagination.
Correct.
Because the conflict is not there yet.
So in continuation with that question, would there be a path where they can pursue the spiritual path with the worldly needs?
So that's where again a clarification becomes important.
Okay.
In terms of one's assumptions. That the world is different from the spiritual path. Okay, one is assuming things here. One is already in the world, pursuing some practices. Let's say, for example, one is into some japa. Will it conflict with worldly needs? If we characterize the worldly needs, what are the so-called worldly needs? Those are in terms of having food with family, some nice food, maybe some entertainment with family or
traveling
with friends. Okay. Maybe some, going to a job and coming back. That's a worldly need.
Yeah.
Maybe some attending some functions, marriage functions or relatives functions. Maybe some religious functions.
Going for shopping,
Going for shopping. These all, if we look at it, these are periodic in nature. And only so much needs to be done. They don't conflict. Conflict happens when we over-imagine, over-project that for doing something so, let's say for half an hour, we need to reject all worldly needs, classifying everything as a worldly need and hence not worthy of my attention. That will create imagined conflict, where the conflict is not there. The worldly needs can be fulfilled. Aram se, one will have time to pursue, spiritual needs as well. But the spiritual needs have to grow gradually, because otherwise one is left with full day. It's available to you. Full day can you meditate, or full day can you do japa, full day can you do pranayama. One will not be capable of that yet. That means there will be conflict. One is not capable, but one is over-projecting, then full day is available, then one is bored and tired and disillusioned. So that leads to disillusionment and depression.
Correct.
So that's not how we project. That's imagined projection. We need to go step by step. And there, worldly needs and spiritual needs can both coexist harmoniously.
How does one can overcome distractions or questions or doubts they get while they are in the spiritual path?
So the doubts are one thing, distractions are another. For doubts, to clarify doubts, one uses swadhyaya. For example, spiritual study of spiritual subjects. Okay. One also uses the connection with a guru or the sangha of the guru. One writes to them, one communicates with them, and patiently waits for an appropriate answer. One attends satsanga. Through such means, when one starts connecting with that kind of oriented people, then one starts getting resolution to one's doubts. Okay, that's a valid path. One tries oneself to, now there are modern means like Google, and so on. One collects information. This all information is useful for tentative resolution. So, no harm in that. When it comes to distraction, many have expectation that the thoughts should be completely sanitized. That's a sanitized idea of meditation, where there are no thoughts, nothing else. No, that's completely sanitized. No, one needs to educate oneself properly with respect to expectations, where it's not a sanitized idea. There are practical ideas. Then one practically starts working. What bothers one addresses. One analyzes one's own life. What sticks out, one harmonizes. What is convincing to one pursues.
Okay.
Like that, there are diverse things that help us grow in conviction, and that by reducing distractions.
This would also give an answer to a person who's like, oh, if I'm just in the ashram, I can seek the spiritual growth more than being outside. But you just answered all of that.
Yes, sir. It's not a necessary and sufficient condition that one is restricted into one space. Then one can just, yes, that's it. Need not be that. While for someone who is appropriately oriented, the context, the space can matter. Because one has prepared, once there is that thirst, and hence the context of an ashram or the spiritual presence of a live guru might immediately serve the needs. Okay. But that also means the context has been prepared.
Okay. So what is the role of our breath, that is pranayama, in the spiritual growth?
When we say prana, there is the sthula prana or the physical breath, and there is the sukshma prana, which is like the the electrical energy flowing through our nadis or through our nervous system, the neuronal pathways. Now that is what leads to higher level process of manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha. They are, for example, even cognition depends on the prana shakti in the neurons, in the nadis. Now, nadis can be characterized as live neuronal flow, not static wiring of nerves, but the live flow can be characterized as nadis. The live flow of prana. So, in nadis, prana flows. And this leads to cognition. This leads to all such higher order experiences, right? Subtler experiences. All of these depend on prana. So pranayama, if we need enhanced spiritual experience, then we need to expand the scope of prana. Without that, it's not possible. So expanding the scope of prana is not just one kind of breathing. The principle is this, expanding the scope of prana by which higher order spiritual experiences are available to us.
Okay.
Because without that prana shakti, that higher order spiritual experience is not available to us. So that way, how do you expand the scope of prana? No?
Okay.
And that is through right breathing, obviously. That is by not dissipating prana through unnecessary worry, by not giving into negativity and depression. By maintaining a positive attitude, prana grows. By having good spiritual values, love, care, affection, trust, patience, forbearance, prana grows.
Okay.
By right knowledge and understanding, prana grows. Because we will not be dissipating prana through unnecessary activities, through improper understanding.
I was just in an assumption that just sitting and doing pranayama would be
would be the necessary form of generating and sustaining prana.
Prana. But this is very insightful.
That's why the principles of prana have to be understood. In that, this is also useful.
Okay.
But this is not the only means.
Yeah.
So that's where even, for example, in a modern day urban lifestyle, so much prana depletion happens because of living in closed spaces.
Okay.
Where we don't have access to the sun, the air, and the earth. The sun and earth are huge contributors to prana. So we need to look at it from a contextual standpoint. Then we see prana is very essential for higher order spiritual experience, and that we generate and sustain through appropriate lifestyles, through appropriate practices also,
Okay.
not just through practices.
I have a few questions about the Guru Shishya relationship. So, is a guru necessary?
Guru means someone who clears away the inner hurdles to reach that center, which is that eternal self. So that way a guru is necessary. Because how else do you clear off the cobwebs of misunderstanding or conditioned ideas that we hold of ourselves or hold of the reality? So in that sense, the guru creates the necessary context for clearing away that path, which is filled with karmic impressions, right? So we are talking of a path which is not out there, which is in here. So an outer destination, you follow Google Maps. There also we need guidance. For an inner destination, definitely required. So that way a guru is very much required.
So, for someone who is intensely devoted to Shiva, can Shiva be a guru for them?
Yes. So the way Shiva guides is by gradually introducing one to a guru who is available for guidance. So when we take up worship of Bhagavan Shiva, then that grows within us, that spiritual thirst, and that helps lead one to the guru.
Okay. As a guru, if you take responsibility of a person, Shishya, what aspect do you work on?
So the Guru Shishya parampara is a very deep relationship where it is not just physically close to each other. It is also about emotional bonding. There is a deep love for each other. There is also a deep respect for each other. And there is a deeper karmic linkage where the Shishya, the fundamental orientation of the Guru is Moksha. The commitment of the Guru is not dharma, artha or kama. It is Moksha. So Moksha means creating the context for the Shishya to arrive at that space where that that Shishya feels liberated, feels free, experiences that freedom. That freedom that only Atma Sakshatkara or Atma Darshana or Brahma Sakshatkara, where that God principle becomes visible, only that gives. So that way, the whole work is creating such circumstances that lead to this realization.
Can everyone expect liberation from a Siddha Guru? Can Mukti be guaranteed by the Guru?
So when we say guarantee, can we guarantee reaching from here to a destination? We can. There is an estimated time of arrival. If we look at the algorithms that calculate the ETA, it's quite complex. There's a lot of positioning, there's a lot of calculations involved with it, there's a lot of traffic patterns based on heuristics, past data that flow into calculating the estimated time of arrival. Likewise, can it be guaranteed? Yes. But calculating the estimated time of when you will arrive at your own self-realization. So that is non-trivial. That's huge.
Okay.
Because when will you open your eyes? That's not predictable like the outside reality. That prediction is more complex than outward prediction. Because the number of parameters involved, the number of pathways that an individual can take at any point in time, it's huge. So the number of possibilities are huge. And in that, what will cause you to prioritize the spiritual realization more than other pursuits? Gradually, the Guru works on these and guarantees that. So that way, the guarantee is there.
Okay.
Now, the complexity is in terms of there is also free will. The Shishya can adopt a mindset which takes them away from the spiritual benefit that they are seeking.
Okay.
So there is definitely that idea of free will. They are free not to choose this path. Then it would be a long, say detour before they again realize this inner condition that no, this is a priority for me.
Okay.
So that causes variations in the estimation.
So is there a thing where a guru should have only certain number of disciples, or is it written anywhere in the Itihasa Puranas that a guru should have so many of disciples, and does a guru leave the hand of a shishya who's dedicated to him? Would that be a
Yes. The Guru parampara never leaves the hand of a Shishya dedicated to that inner calling of moksha. So all the commitment that is required is to that inner calling of moksha. Then the Guru parampara never, leaves the hand of such a Shishya. Okay. So that being said, there is free will. There is free willed operation of the Shishya. So they're free to explore, keeping this as a priority.
okay.
So that way, the Shishya, when they approach with that humility, that Shraddha, and gradually developing that, these are all spiritual values that work in cohesion, in unison, one supporting the other, and hence giving rise to that context in which that spiritual realization is held. Okay. In that sense, the Shishya is never given up.
Okay.
It's a commitment of the Guru Parampara.
Okay. So if a shishya is being taken under a guru, like a disciple, and definitely throughout the lifetimes, the shishya or the guru, if they are in the Grihastha dharma, or definitely they would have a family. So would the path of the shishya also affect in a spiritual way to the family, like the benefits what the shishya would get? Would it also benefited to the family?
See, now the relationship between a Guru and a Shishya is one of personal relationship.
One-on-one.
It's one-on-one. So it's not one on many. So that way the Guru can take up a lot of Shishyas. That does not matter. It's always never a lot. It is always individual. Now the individual is progressing. The context of the individual is always with respect to the larger purpose for which the individual is oriented. Okay. In that sense, the individual could be a brahmachari turning into sannyasa. The individual could be in the context of a grihastha. The individual could be in the context of any kind of activities or work. But primarily what matters is the inner working, the inner freeing up by fructification of certain karmic patterns, if we can say that, karmic samskaras. Those patterns being freed up, that individual moves on the path to that realization, to breaking free of this limited identification. So in that sense, will they move away from their, let's say they are married, will it affect them? No, it is to do with inner work. The way they perceive it will get enhanced. They are not constrained to move away or to stay. That's not the idea at all.
That's a popular question actually. Like whoever is a grihastha or a normal brahmachari, he may not be considered like under a guru brahmachari who's not married also, who's seeking the spiritual path, are like, oh, you will become a sannyasin. Even a grihastha has that fear, like a husband or a wife is in the spiritual path, they think that, okay, they're taking up the sannyasa.
That is a popular assumption, a popular image that has stuck in people's mind. But the spiritual path is not constrained by popular images. It's nobody is to say yes, everyone will become a sannyasin. It's not easy. Sannyasa marga is very, very advanced because one is it takes many, many years before which one is given the title of a Swami. It's a recognition of an inner accomplishment, an inner state, that of sannyasa, where your identification even with your own body, your own personality, you can keep it at a distance. So that recognition is given the title of a sannyasi or Swami, where one is selfless. One treats the entire world as one's own family, right? So that, in that sense, in modern sannyasa, many sannyasis own up the entire world as their family, not just a few individuals as their family. So that's a very great commitment.
Yes.
No, that's amazing. So that way, one is not rejecting life in that sense, moving away from grihastha or moving away from family life. It is stepping forward, progressing to a greater responsibility, a greater life. And hence, if these principles are understood, it's a possibility for the entire family to move ahead, to dedicate themselves to society. That way they also get benefited.
True. So we have different gurus, and the gurus have different disciples, all belong to different paramparas. So if I had to put it to a word which says process to attain the moksha or mukti, would all of the gurus or the disciples which belong to different paramparas have almost the same process for attaining the moksha or mukti?
Yeah. Here we have to differentiate between outer process and inner process. Generally, outer process is defined in terms of the activities that we do to reach a particular goal. For example, if you have to go from here to some other location, these are the steps that you will do to reach there. Okay. While an inner goal will be in terms of what are the values to be cultivated to reach there. Those are also processes, but it is like a processless process. It's like a pathless path, where to cultivate those values, certain directions are given, which will entail certain niyamas, which will entail certain disciplines.
Okay.
But those are to enable those values. Now, the values are subjective phenomena.
Okay.
They are not objective, deterministic phenomena. So when we say processes, they are not so deterministic. That's why it is the judgment of the guru. And that's why a full faith or a confidence of the shishya on the guru becomes very important. It's a relationship. And the relationship is strong, then the shishya will have faith in the guru, which means those pathless paths can be traversed, which are not deterministic in nature. Because how do you cultivate these values? Who's to say you have those values?
Obviously.
So that trust in the guru becomes absolutely important. That's called Shraddha.
Will this affect the path of the guru or the shishya? Like example, someone who has a Shraddha on the guru versus who is still getting there. So will the speed of process, which I'm talking about, differentiate between these two?
So that's where we need to understand it through multiple value systems leading to this centering. When we say Shraddha, it does not mean just one dimension. It has multiple value systems in place. There needs to be some innovation, there needs to be some perseverance, there needs to be some letting go. It is like driving. You need to accelerate when you accelerate, You need to decelerate when you see an obstacle. You need to stop when you see the traffic light. You need to take a turn when you need to take a turn. You need to avoid obstacles to be able to reach the destination. Right? Likewise, inner obstacles. And for that, some innovation might be required, some initiative might be required, some breaking, withholding might be required. All this is part of following the Guru Agya.
Okay.
So it is not losing one's judgment, but it's cultivating a superior judgment, highly intelligent, nuanced reasoning. So that becomes a pursuit. So it is not, that's why when we say diverse sampradayas, the processes that are followed are not just in terms of outward deterministic processes. You do this, these all values will be cultivated. No, there is no saying that.
Okay.
That's why that connection with the Guru. And that itself means subjective processes blossom.
Okay.
And they take their time. There's nobody to say, yes, that's it, it's perfect. No, it's a becoming. It's a being. Being and becoming together. So you're constantly growing and upholding it. It's a dynamic process. When we have an outward orientation, we have a static idea.
Okay.
While the inner orientation gives us an understanding that it is a dynamic thing which has to be upheld.
Okay.
So even a value has to be upheld.
Okay. Yeah. How can I find my guru? Like, does the deity also can also be a guru for someone who's seeking spiritual progress in their life?
If one has a Ishta Devata, if one has a sincere seeking, one can definitely pray to the Ishta Devata, and the Devata will point to the Guru, will create the circumstances in the life which will make the Guru manifest to that person who's seeking. Right? It's a dynamic process. It's not like a static idea. I do this, I get the Guru. It's not like that. It's that thirst that matters. And it's these inner circumstances that matter. Outwardly, one might be experiencing a very normal life, while inwardly, there could be a thirst building up. And that thirst can enable a prayer, a sincere prayer to a Devata. It can be approaching someone who one thinks as a Guru. Even they can hand over to a Guru that is meant for us. This is also like the difference between a mass education and a PhD education. Mass education, it's one to many. But a PhD level, there is a connection between one to one. There is always a guide. But not everyone aspires for a PhD because the commitment required is that much. Without that necessary level of commitment and to that pursuit, a guru is an overkill.
True.
You know, so that way one also develops that conviction that yes, I want this, and this is a high priority for me. Just like the PhD process, not everyone needs to pursue PhD, but some feel strongly about the pursuit of knowledge. Like that, there is a strong pursuit of spiritual, clarity, of attaining to that realization of oneself, and that helps manifest the Guru.
Okay. How can a disciple best serve the Guru and the lineage?
Now, the service is in terms of generally we build up an identity based on what we repeatedly do. And we project based on past patterns of doing. That's called ahankara. That means past patterns of doing builds an identity, and with that we project into the future. So our projection is limited to only our data set, let's say, past data set. But a guru means a completely different phenomenon. Now that might be non-linear.
Correct.
Right? It may not be like a linear projection. Past I did this, in future I will do more of this. It might not fit into that paradigm at all.
Mm.
It might be completely different from that.
Okay.
So when even to encounter this idea might not be easy. That's why we don't project too much of our ahankara.
Mm.
This is a process called ahankara shunya. That means one is not projecting too much of one's own past into the future. One is open to new things emerging. One does not know what's going to emerge in the future. Till now, okay, but one is open to what emerges. That is how Guru Seva works, where one is looking at any and every activity gradually from the coherent view of Guru Seva.
Mm.
There is no separate that alone and separate my life. My life is my own projection. Guru Seva is just this timed activity. Not like that. Gradually, everything, one's breath, one's words, one's eating, sleeping, doing anything, common activity to the most profound activity, meditation, everything becomes from the spiritual sadhaka's viewpoint only one. All of this is Guru Seva.
Now that after listening to this answer, my chitti to the God, whenever I go ask him so many things, I want that, I want this, then I'm like all gone now. It became shunya. Only thing I have is Guru's Agnya. Okay. What is the deeper meaning of surrendering ourselves to the Guru-disciple relationship?
Now, the surrender is called Sharanagati. Sharanagati is, generally the identity built of oneself is based on all the activities that we constantly keep doing. Now, those activities give us a live identity that we depend on and that we hold on. Gradually, that becomes the cocoon, which also limits us, which also traps us. We are what we do. That's called the doership idea, or the karta bhava or kartritva bhava. We are the doer. That means whatever we do, we get trapped into that identity and continue doing that. Now we are doing with our body, we are doing with our words, we are doing with our mind as well. Thoughts even get conditioned to repeated thought patterns. Right? And hence, after a point, this feels suffocating. Once it starts feeling suffocating, once you start feeling suffocated by this, trapped by this, that's when the spiritual quest starts. Where one sees how to free oneself up from this. Because it's suffocating. You wish to free yourselves up. Then you try various means to free yourselves up.
True.
You'll try this, you'll try that, you'll try that, you'll try this. And you'll see there is no escape from that pain. When you have exhausted all your own trying, then you surrender to the Guru. Because you would see that, okay, I can do only this much. I'm not able to proceed. You have come to that realization. And hence you are willing to listen to the Guru. It's called Guru Sushrusha. You're willing to serve the Guru so that you have better insights as to how to deal with this.
So is this also many lifetimes of Ichcha to be under a Guru?
Yeah, does it not take so much? Because see, let's say there is the idea of the prarabdha. Prarabdha means the role that we have taken for this lifetime. Imagine it to be a role play in a reality show. Okay. Now we are playing this role and we are looking at someone else and we feel, oh, that's a great role. But in this reality show, the script will not allow you to play that role. Then what is required to play that role? A new script, which is a new lifetime.
Okay.
Like that, our own projections lead us further and further. Because we are constantly looking around and feeling that, hey, that is a great role. No, I want that. I want this. I want that. I want this. We are projecting. And those have to be satisfied. It's our own projections, our own desires. We want to experience that. Because we feel somehow that that experience will be fulfilling. Our current state of experience is not that fulfilling. So it's a state of tripti or fulfillment that counts.
Okay.
And that, if we are comparing, then we are seeing that that will be more fulfilling than my current state of experience.
Correct.
When there is there, opportunity is given to experience that. Because there's no harm.
So wonderful.
Until you stop projecting. But when will you do that?
So the presence of the Guru physically available, does that affect presence or absence of a Guru in the physical world? Does that affect the spiritual growth of the disciple?
So when the physical presence does matter, because for many, they have a strong sense of identity anchored in the body, where they are this, strong physical anchoring of their sense of identity. Then they relate to the physical presence. Because it's in relation to your anchoring. If that physical anchoring is not so strong, then a physical presence need not be so strong. Right? It's to do with what we reflect strongly. What gives us a sense of certainty? For many people, ideas don't give a sense of certainty. Let's say, for example, the difference between someone who gets a monthly salary versus someone who's an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, they are building it up in the ideas. While someone else might expect certainty in form of, no, this is the job description. So at what level are we expecting? If it's the externalized definitions that matter to us, then an externalized form of a guru matters to us most. Right? Correct. And there's nothing wrong with it. But if the externalized definitions don't matter so much, we live inside out, then the externalized presence alone does not anchor us. We can feel the presence wherever the guru is. For example, we once encountered the physical presence, and the physical presence, let's say the guru travels. Then, even then, we are comfortable. Our shraddha, our faith does not get shaken in the physical absence of the guru. Then that's a certain condition. If our faith needs constant reinforcement through the physical presence of the guru, then that's a certain other condition.
Okay. So the follow-up question for the script for the lifetime. So it's my assumption that let's assume there's a script given to us for this lifetime, and role of astrology contributing to or looking at the script. Okay, this might be the future of you, versus a guru's presence in the disciple's life. Would that change the script that's been given?
So when we say the script, it depends on how scripted we want it to be. Okay. Is it linearly scripted or is it non-linearly scripted? There are different kinds of scripts. Let's say, for example, for the sake of understanding, if we take the entry role into a company, the entry role has a job description which will talk in terms of certain roles and responsibilities, which will be specific in nature. If we are looking at the job description or the role description of a top management person, those will be in terms of ensuring maximum value to all the stakeholders. Now, ensuring maximum value to all the stakeholders, is it a script? Yes, it is.
Correct.
But does it define this is how you need to achieve it? Not exactly.
Yeah.
Right? There is freedom, there is innovation, all of that is expected as part of the role description. Similarly, your role, when we say prarabdha or the script, need not be linear. It can be non-linear. It depends on the chakras. The lower order chakras, it will be more linear. The higher order chakras, it's a lot more freedom, and yet it's a script. But script not in terms of you don't have freedom to operate, because it's more in terms of the vision, the larger vision, or the values that you'll need to fulfill. In that, there will be an intermixing of how to achieve it.
Okay.
Right? So the whole spectrum is a script. So it need not be just linear and so scripted. It can give a lot of freedom and scope
Okay.
for achieving the core purposes for which you are here.